We are back. If you have just taken a quick break and you're right back in the next video, welcome. And if it's been a few days, then just remember to look over your workbook and get some basic ideas of any notes that you took. If you took any in the last video, of course, I talked about how the empowered birth system works. And I talked about the 3 fear traps. Remember that the fear traps are pain. They're also fear of something going wrong. And it's also about the fear of interventions and pushback. So those are the main fear traps that lead to you compromising or fighting or begging permission or giving up on your birth plan. And so this basically comes down to this. So you may want to have an empowered birth, but if you're still afraid, you're more likely to crumble under the pressure, compromise on what you really want, and our society has actually conditioned most women to be nice and put other people before ourselves. You don't want to upset your care provider. You don't want to upset your partner. You don't want to make your family uncomfortable. And so you compromise on what you really want. And you start to have that self doubt. It's like, am I really doing the right thing? Because everybody tells me I'm wrong. Well, this is the thing, is that you need to understand that these fear traps have another layer. And once you see that, once you understand where these sources are really coming from, because they didn't come from you, they came from other people. There's other voices in your head. They're telling you that what you're wanting is wrong, but your intuition is powerful and your heart is telling you that you don't want to do this, but other people are telling you you have to, and you're kind of at war with yourself. And by doing what I'm going to be teaching you in this training, you're going to be able to start recognizing, okay, I see what's going on here and I'm not falling for it anymore. So first of all, we're going to go with truth number 1. Most decisions that you don't want to make, like deciding to go for that induction or deciding to have that hospital birth or deciding to go for that vaginal exam or that test or that extra ultrasound, it's because you're afraid of what will happen if you do what you actually want to do. Well, what happens if you said no? What happens if you don't do that ultrasound? You don't do that test that's being recommended. You don't go and have that induction. You don't schedule that C-section. You don't end up going to the hospital. You say, you know what? I'm not doing that. Well, what happens? You're afraid. What's going to happen if you do what you actually want to do? You're into this idea of could, might, possibly, maybe happen. You're into those fear traps again. Is it going to be the pain that you're going to experience? Is it going to be that fear of something going wrong? Is it the fear of pushback? If you actually say no, are you afraid that they're going to bully you and yell at you and call you a bad mom? Well, once you're out of your fear and you recognize that it's like, I'm just going to do this, when you have those tools, none of that affects you anymore. The other thing you need to know about truth number 2 is other people can and will project their fears onto you. So it's your job to either tune in or tune out. It's not on you to make them comfortable with your decision. But our society has taught you to make other people more comfortable with your decisions by compromising on yourself. Now, you have to recognize other people have fears. Other people don't have the right education about birth. So if you say, I'm having a home birth, and they say things that are silly, like, well, what if you bleed out? Well, that's less likely to happen if you understand physiological birth. Or they say, well, what if the cord is around the baby's neck? Well, again, a cord around the baby's neck is not really a big deal. And you'll learn more about that when we talk about physiological birth. Or there's other silly things that people talk about. It's like, well, who's going to catch your baby? How are they going to catch the baby? How will you know that it's time to push if you don't have vaginal exams? How will you know that you're in actual labor if you don't go to the hospital? Like, what if something goes wrong? Like, they have their fears. Now, the thing is that they're going to put those fears on you because they don't know how to tune in to themselves and be like, this is my stuff and I probably shouldn't put this on this person. No, no, no. Because sometimes they really care about you. If it's friends and family, they care about you and they love you and they're afraid. Or it's your care provider and they have seen things and they're afraid. but they can't see the water that they swim in. Fish can't see water they swim in. And we have this culture of fear. So that leads to truth number 3, which is that most fears are based on lack of information, cultural biases, and the illusion of danger or punishment. If I don't do this, I'm going to get in trouble. If I don't do this, something bad is going to happen. If I don't do this, I'm a bad mom. So you need to recognize that there's all these biases, there's all these assumptions, there's this illusion of danger and punishment, there's a lack of information, and it's not out there. So once you get past your fear, as I'm going to teach you how to do, this is going to allow you to get out of that. And that leads to the empowered birth secrets. When you're no longer afraid, no one can pressure you. And when you're no longer afraid, you can become the birth visionary. Now, the birth visionary is an idea that I have basically created that concept of your dream birth. We aim for our dream birth, and then we only pull back with our safety net as much as you need. If you're still stuck in fear, you can't see your vision. If you're still stuck in fear, you're compromising. You're settling for something because you think you can't have the thing you really want. So as long as you're stuck in fear, you can't actually know what you want in your birth because you don't dream it's possible. You're still planning from a place of fear. You want to plan from a place of power. And then secret number 3, when you're no longer afraid, you start to trust your instincts and you stop believing the cultural and medical narrative about your body and your birth options, and you create your own options instead. So if you're worried, it's like, well, I don't know what my options are, and that's why I'm getting education from my care provider and asking them what my options are. No, you don't want to ask other people what your options are. You want to know, what is the thing I'm aiming for? And then you create your own options. This is the secret to actually getting your true natural birth. If you're following somebody else's blueprint, it's leading to their version of what they think a safe, healthy, wonderful, empowered birth is. And I want you to use yours because nobody else has your values. Nobody else has your experiences. Nobody else is going to be living in your body or having those memories. So if they're not having your memories, they're not living your experience, then they don't actually know what's best for you. You are your own best expert. So even with everything that I teach in the Empowered Birth Method and all of my systems and my courses, I still want you to know, I want you to trust yourself. Okay, if something doesn't fit for you, leave it. It's okay. You can take what works for you and make that your own. You can add on to it. You can build off of it. You can twist it in a way that works for you. But the fact is that you need to trust your own instincts. Birth is instinctive. It is not something that you can learn from a textbook and then just follow the textbook and have a good birth. No, you have to trust your instincts. And that leads again into the empowered birth system, which I will talk about in the next training. So if you need to take a glass of water, go do that. If you have to go pee, if you want to write some notes, if you're like, wow, that was a lot, and I want to start thinking about that, about the truths and about these secrets and recognize that, then go and do that. Because when we come back, we're going to go into my full empowered birth system, which is my 5 pillars. And if you already have my book, Your Empowered Birth, you probably already know this, but I'm also going to give it to you in the context of fear and understanding deeper what this really is. You're going to have those bullet points and how it actually works all together, because you need all 5 pillars to have your empowered birth experience. Otherwise, you end up getting back into your fear and your partner gets into their fear and you crumble under the pressure, you give in, you give up, you fight with your care provider, and you maybe do something that you're like, I wish I hadn't done that thing because it just derailed my entire birth. Like, say, agreeing to a cervix check or agreeing to have your membrane swept when you really didn't think you needed to, but you were starting to doubt yourself because you didn't have all 5 pillars. All right, so I'll see you in the next training and I'll see you then. Now